Thanks, Margaret, for being here.
Yes,
It's good to
I'm so
see you.
happy to sit with you.
Yeah. So we wanted to talk a little bit about the transition that an office goes through, right? So from the start of, even if they're getting a phone call from us, right? And they're like, who are these? I get tons of merchant services, credit card people calling me or walking in my office, right? They walk in the door and you're like, get out, we're in shift, we're busy, right? And we're calling them, we're trying to help them. And can you talk about that process?
Yeah, definitely. So when we got the original call, I was, usually when I get a merchant call, I know exactly what it is. And I'm like, nope, we're good, thanks. And I just hang up the phone. I mean, that's kind of like a typical thing when you're a very busy office and you're, seeing a lot of patients and you're like, I just don't have time.
Yeah.
So for me, it was actually a blessing that I actually, had that intuitiveness to just like, hey, this one might be a little bit different. I'm going to listen because, it really, I had heard of Fortis before because we were at an elite seminar.
Oh, yeah.
And so that was really cool to be able to say, oh, it's Fortis. Okay, I've heard of them. What do we got here?
Yeah.
And then I was able to, listen up and really understand exactly what's going on. They sent me some videos to check out. So it was nice that I didn't have to sit there on the phone with them and like, oh, let's, sit here for 30 minutes and talk you're this and that and blah, blah, blah. So they sent me a couple of videos and I watched clips of them and I'm like, okay, this seems pretty simple. And then when Rick gave me a call back, we watched it together and I realized like, yeah, I definitely needed to see this whole video because it paints the whole picture.
Yeah, most offices only catch a little bit, right? You're busy, you don't want to, it's 12, one's 3 minutes, one's 8 minutes. You're like, I watched the 3 minute, but like a minute of the 8 minute one, and that's the good one.
Yeah, it definitely really painted the picture of like how much potential this would have for our office because it's very easy, very simple to follow. So once I was able to see that, I'm like, okay, I think we've got something that's pretty valuable here, and I'm gonna find out as much as I can. Simply, send over what we were dealing with already, and Rick was able to give an analysis and show us that we were actually, it was pretty awesome for us to be able to move to Fortis.
Right.
So we gave it a shot, and we have never looked back. It's been pretty awesome. I still get calls all the time.
Yep.
Hey, we're looking, to switch your merchant services. And I'm like, we're very happy, thank you. And then hang up the phone. So, but I wanted to talk a little bit about how easy the process was, the whole transition from like start to finish.
We get that a lot. Offices go, I just don't know that I can go through this, right? Transitioning, I'm afraid to ask all my patients and what's going to happen and how do you handle that in an office, right? What's the process? We know we've heard a process, but what was your process in your office?
Well, we are really a fast-paced office, like many are. I mean, even if you talk to any office staff, they're probably saying like, yes, I'm very busy all day long. So for us, it was a little intimidating to be able to think like we've got one more thing to do. But we knew that the reward at the end was going to be so much greater. So we just had to kind of push through, and honestly it was so much simpler than we ever thought. So we basically just made a goal of like, hey, we're going to stop each patient that walks in today and we're going to have them put the card on file with us.
Right.
And there were some that slipped out the door. That's okay. We got time. So the nice part was Rick assured us that it's easy to just do a slow transition if you need to. You can go as quick or as slow as you need to. And I'm like, oh, thank goodness, because it just made it took that like pressure off.
Yeah, you don't have to shut your old system off to start this.
Exactly. So it wasn't like cold turkey, like we're running, let's do this.
Right.
If you missed one here or there or whatever it may be, you've got time to make that up. So it was nice. So we just had the patients, and we just really made it their benefit to be able to have the card on file, because that's one of the biggest fears, at least for us, and I've heard from other places too, is like, how dare I ask someone to put a card on file? Like, they're never going to go for that. But you have to remember, like, people click onto Amazon, their card is on file. People go, you know what I mean? Like, that sort of thing is kind of the norm now. So it's really not that big of a challenge. Yeah,
and really from a technology security standpoint, people don't realize, so the chip is the new big thing, right? It's the buzzword in our space, and it's really irrelevant for chiropractors. Anyone who tells you otherwise is just trying to sell you something. But when you store a card in our system, we actually use a process called tokenization. So what tokenization is we replace the credit card number with an alphanumeric token, or 16 digits, characters that mean nothing. And when we send that to Visa, MasterCard, they translate it, they send us back the token. We never actually pass credit card data. So storing it is actually the most secure thing you can do, because like when Target gets hacked or these big companies get hacked, it's usually the credit card terminals that get hacked, because those are dumb. It's a dumb terminal. This is a smart system where tokenization is actually the most secure way to process a payment today.
Right.
So it's more, not realizing it's actually more secure to have it on file and tokenize it. And not only that, now the patients never have to pull out their wallet ever again.